I agree with you 1000%. We have to talk about the secondary plot of this episode, and I guess of the whole show, the Reva thing.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Me too.
Absolutely terrible.
Me too.
And I'm like, this time that like we did with Reva, and she's chasing Luke. I was like, oh my god, why couldn't they stop with the Luke and Leia stuff? I still am firm now watching this whole thing. We should have ended Leia episode like 2 or 3 in, and then you can still have the scene at the end where Obi-Wan visits, the parents. They're like, oh my god, take care of them. If you ever need me, that's fine. Leaves. And then up Reva's character. I think the reason I hate it so much, it's because Reva was a character that could have been so much more and wasn't.
Yeah.
And they focus on like, oh, her attacking younglings. I was like, Reva was a savage, and now she just did this weird heel change, and now she's a good person, or kind of, and now she's giving up her lightsaber. I was like, all right, if you've taken all this kind of time and evolve it with her and Obi-Wan doing a more of a confrontation between the two of them, one master of like another master, they could have done this back and forth. I think would have been a much better plot. And then the beginning half of the episode could have been the end half of the episode of him fighting Vader after Reva dies because she tries to confront Vader or something like that. I think they wasted Reva's character. It's very unfortunate. I felt like this whole other subplot was so secondary to them. They were just like, it doesn't even matter because we're going to focus on this, and that's all everybody's going to talk about. Because they're right. In like in a year or two, I'm not even going to care about Reva or this other stuff because I'm just going to be focused on this Obi-Wan and Luke, Vader stuff. But it's just a shame that Reva, they wasted this character, and I think she could have been really something cool.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Rob. I wonder 2 or 3 things about her. Number one is the obvious, right? Is it a character they're inventing now to put in other stuff down the line? Is it a marketing thing? Is it a something to grow this character of Reva that they want to put in a different show and kind of continue that story? And the other side is, like, you can't focus on Obi-Wan and Leia and Vader and Reva and everyone have this equal time in 6 episodes, right? It's just not possible to give that time. And it's either her story was bad and half-assed, or you focused on her and we got less of Obi-Wan, which is ridiculous. So I think the whole point of her stuff by the end of this show is really bad, considering we know Luke doesn't die, so he was never in real danger. There was no point of her surviving that wound again, which I still don't know how she survived. And the fact that she kind of just goes to Tatooine to be an annoyance took a lot away from the rest of the plot of this show, right?
Yeah.
Because you have, every time you had the scenes with Vader and Obi-Wan fighting, they cut to Reva. And
I'm like, I don't care.
I'm like, I don't care. Go back. Like we don't need this back and forth. I know the intention span of 90% of the planet's horrible, but Jesus.
When Reva was on Tatooine in the first place and threatened Owen, he's like, I'll come back. His whole family's going to die. They could have had this scene where Reva attacked the family in the beginning of the show. And Obi-Wan goes there and stops it.
Yeah, but that's revealing Obi-Wan at the time where he's not revealed.
I guess, okay. Or then maybe it's like, all right, Owen like stops it, or somebody dies, or somehow the other Jedi that's on the planet maybe pumped him up a little bit more before he dies. Like, oh, he goes and stops it, he dies, and something like.
I just don't know if there's a fix for it, man. I think one of the other issues is this, right? Star Wars has this thing where everything's a redemption, right? Not everything needs to be. Vader was the original redemption arc, right?
I agree.
It's Anakin to Vader. Luke saves him at the end. Redemption. The Kylo Ren thing never made sense to me. This doesn't make sense either. I think
she should have died when Vader should have killed her.
Yeah, like the only real like kind of true blood bad guys are like Palpatine, Darth Maul, and like Count Dooku. So like I'm fine with Reva just being an Inquisitor or struggling with that and dying trying to fulfill what she wanted, right? That revenge story ending and her kind of being like this tragic character, which in my opinion I'd feel more for if she died trying to fight Vader. Like, she spent her whole life trying to get close to this guy and just failed and couldn't get it done. Like, that's heartbreaking.
If the way she died fighting Vader was like, all right, you want to do a heel turn? Okay, you decided to help Obi-Wan fight Vader to allow the people to escape and on that planet, change her mentality a little bit, and then she dies there. You're like, oh my God, Reva, thank God.
I guess, yeah. Or I mean, like, I also don't want to take away from just Vader versus Obi-Wan.
No, I'm talking about like when she died on that planet.
Oh, like, yeah, when she died like originally. Yeah,
and if they had a little bit more time beforehand of them, like, all right, we could do this together. Mm-hmm. And then she's playing, and she's like, we don't have time. Like, the stormtroopers are coming in. Like, I'm pretending I'm fighting you. Like, I'm going to hold off as long as I can. It tries to betray Vader, does the same thing. Vader stabs, and she dies there. And then we sail off. We're like, oh my God, thank you, Reva, for saving Obi-Wan and Leia and all this kind of stuff.
Meaning
Cool.
like she was part of the plot to help them escape,
Correct.
not just after they left and then it happened.
Yes.
Yeah, like we did get, the whole like, hey, I'm bringing him to you scenario, right? Where she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I agree. If that was part of the plot where she helped them escape and then either, gravely injured, dies, we don't see her again, whatever the hell, that is a lot better than what I think they gave us, because there was no point of her in this entire episode, right? There was absolutely no point of her. And I just think personally, that's where it takes away from the show. But I will say, I did like the Uncle Owen side of this.
Sure. I like it.
Showing Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru how much they actually care for Luke. Because in the original movies, right, they die in the first 20 minutes. And you don't really get the sense of how much Luke means to them or how much they are actually a family. And that I thought was really nice to see, where it's like, no, where Reva's like, hey, you really care about him. And he's like, yeah, he's my boy. Like, of course I do. And you actually see how much Owen cares. And he's not just being a jerk to Obi-Wan. He's not just being like anti-Jedi. He's just very protective of really his son. And it might also explain Uncle Owen's limp from episode 4, because he gets his knee bad. So that might have been a little Easter egg there too. So I did like that.